In late 2024, China launched its first Type 095 nuclear attack submarines. At least 2 hulls completed sea trials, now operational, and U.S. Navy admirals are quietly concerned because for the first time in 70 years, China has submarines the United States might actually struggle to find. Today, we're going to break down exactly what makes Type 095 different, the technology, the verified noise levels, and why this submarine represents the single biggest shift in Pacific undersea warfare since the Cold War. 3 things you need to understand: what Type 095 actually is, why submarines are all about decibels, and whether the U.S. Navy can respond before it's too late. Type 095, Chinese designation 09V, third-generation nuclear attack submarine for the People's Liberation Army Navy. Built here, Huludao Shipyard, the same facility that produced every Chinese nuclear submarine for the past 50 years. But Type 095 is nothing like what came before. First, size. Type 095 displaces approximately 10,000 to 11,000 tons submerged. That's 1,300 tons heavier than its predecessor, the Type 093, and it almost matches the U.S. Virginia class. Why does size matter? Because bigger means room for more systems, better sonar, more weapons, and crucially, more sound insulation. But here's what U.S. analysts are actually worried about: not the size, the propulsion. Previous Chinese submarines used propellers, spinning blades that churn water, create cavitation bubbles, generate noise. Type 095 uses a pump jet. Imagine a jet engine underwater. Water gets sucked in, accelerated through a shrouded impeller, expelled quietly. No exposed blades, no cavitation. The U.S. has used pump jets since the Seawolf class in the 1990s. China just caught up. Second innovation, horizontal isolation rafting. Every submarine engine creates vibrations. Those vibrations transfer through the hull, into the water, detectable by enemy sonar. Type 095 mounts its entire propulsion system on a horizontal raft, suspended on rubber mounts, decoupled from the hull. According to the Royal United Services Institute, this is a significant noise reduction capability. But that's not even the biggest change. There are unconfirmed reports that Type 095's nuclear reactor design incorporates Russian acoustic dampening technology. If true, China didn't just develop quieter submarines, they accelerated by borrowing 30 decades of Russian expertise, which brings us to the part that actually matters. If you want to understand how China is reshaping global power before the headlines catch up, hit subscribe. Thank you. Here's what most people don't understand about submarine warfare. It's not about missiles. It's not about torpedoes. It's about one thing: noise. The ocean has a baseline sound level. Waves crashing, marine life, thermal layers shifting, about 90 decibels of ambient noise. A submarine that makes 90 decibels of sound is effectively invisible. It blends into the background, indistinguishable from the ocean itself. So how loud were previous Chinese submarines? The Type 091, China's first nuclear submarine, launched 1974. According to Western intelligence estimates, it produced sound levels comparable to Soviet Victor I-class submarines from the 1960s, incredibly loud. The Type 093, China's second-generation attack submarine, entered service 2006. Noise level, approximately 110 to 120 decibels. That's 30 to 40 years behind U.S. technology. At the time of its launch, Type 093 was about as quiet as submarines the Soviet Union was building before the moon landing. U.S. attack submarines could detect Type 093 from over 20 nautical miles away using TB-29A towed sonar arrays, which meant China's submarine force was essentially tracked, monitored, contained. And then something changed. Conservative estimates from multiple intelligence sources place its noise signature at 100 to 105 decibels. Optimistic projections, if Russian acoustic technology was fully integrated, suggest it could be as low as 95 to 100 decibels. For context, U.S. Seawolf class, the quietest attack submarines ever built, 95 decibels. U.S. Virginia class, current frontline submarine, 95 decibels. Russian Yasen class, modern design, approximately 100 decibels. Type 095 at 100 to 105 decibels is approaching early Virginia-class Block I performance. But here's what that actually means in practice. Sound doesn't work like you think it does underwater. Every 10 decibel reduction doesn't reduce detection range by 10%, it reduces it by a factor of 3. A study from Shanghai Jiaotong University published in May 2025 confirmed a mere 10 decibel reduction in underwater vehicle noise can decrease its detectable range by approximately 1/3. Type 093 at 110 decibels, detectable at 50 nautical miles. Type 095 at 100 decibels, detectable at approximately 15 to 20 nautical miles. That's not a small improvement, that's a 9-fold reduction in detection range. If Type 095 reaches 95 decibels, matching Virginia class, the detection range drops again. Another 3-fold reduction, 32 times harder to detect than Type 093. Now think about what this means. In 2000, China's submarine technology was 30 years behind. In 2025, they've cut that gap in half. One submarine generation, one design cycle. And the Pacific just became contested. Taiwan Strait, average depth less than 500 feet. Shallow water creates sonar dead zones. Low-frequency sonar loses effectiveness. Type 095 can sit beneath the thermocline, a temperature layer that bends sound waves, and wait. If a U.S. carrier strike group approaches from the Philippine Sea, Type 095 can launch YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missiles, range 540 kilometers, from vertical launch tubes while submerged. The result? U.S. carriers must operate further from Taiwan, reduced aircraft range, less effective air support, and it gets worse. Type 095 isn't just a Taiwan problem. Its size and stealth allow operations deep into the Pacific, past the first island chain, approaching Guam, 2,000 kilometers from mainland China. The National Security Journal reported in November 2025, China's submarine fleet is rapidly closing the gap qualitatively, eroding the U.S. Navy's technological edge. But here's what analysts are really watching. Type 095 isn't just an attack submarine, it's a bodyguard. China's Type 094 ballistic missile submarines carry nuclear weapons. They're the sea-based leg of China's nuclear deterrent. Type 095's mission, protect those boomers, create a defensive bastion in the South China Sea, prevent U.S. attack submarines from hunting China's nuclear arsenal. A submarine you can't find, protecting missiles you can't stop. So what is the U.S. doing about this? The SSN-X program, America's next-generation attack submarine, larger, more capable, designed specifically to counter threats like Type 095. Type 095 is operational now. That's a 10-year window where China has a submarine the U.S. designed its response to counter but hasn't built yet. In the meantime, Virginia-class Block V, first hull expected 2026, 28 additional missile tubes, most significant redesign since the class began. But production rate, 1 to 2 boats per year. China is building faster. And here's the irony. While China builds stealthier submarines, they're simultaneously developing systems to find American ones. November 2025, Chinese researchers claimed an AI system capable of detecting Virginia-class submarines using multi-sensor fusion. Unverified claims, possibly propaganda, but the intent is clear. China isn't just trying to hide, they're trying to make sure we can't hide either. For 70 years, the United States owned the underwater domain. American submarines went where they wanted, listened, watched, remained invisible. That era created a strategic assumption. In any Pacific conflict, U.S. submarines would have the advantage. They would find the enemy first, strike first, disappear. Type 095 doesn't eliminate that advantage, but it challenges it. A submarine that operates at 100 decibels isn't invisible, but it's close enough to change the math, close enough to make admirals recalculate, close enough to make a Taiwan contingency uncertain. China is building 6 to 8 Type 095 submarines by 2030. The US response won't arrive until 2035. The question isn't whether China has caught up. The question is, what happens in the decade before we catch back up?